If you have 100K in your pocket and you wanted to go, you could go use the same open source code and software that folks in China are using.
Why humanoid robots is because the shape, like a person, you can send your robots, they can fight each other. There is no casualties. That's very meaningful to us.
The moon is the future of production, and that's an interesting idea.
If you are technology driven and you can think of an exoskeleton, you can have the best technology in the world. I feel that my company cares for me, and I feel much happier working knowing that I'm not going to be under tremendous pressure and load.
It sounds like a big part of that happiness factor is then the ability for people to know effectively, like, I'm not going to ruin my body for this job.
Humans have been on Earth 300,000 years. Conflict seems to be inevitable.
Well, Arnaud, where are you from, man?
So I'm originally from Mauritius, moved to New Zealand when I was 29. So that's 20 years this year.
Congratulations.
That I've been, yeah, right. And so I've got 3 homes. So I've got, Grand Bay, Mauritius, Auckland, New Zealand, and Salt Lake City, Utah, right? So, and I'm a citizen of the world. For me, the home is more the feeling rather than a location. So meaning I feel good when I'm surrounded by my Mauritian peers, my family and friends from Mauritius, and then obviously I spent the last 20 years in Auckland, New Zealand. Feels really good there. I really like people in New Zealand and Americans, right? Utahns, Americans. I get on really well with American. This has been going on for years now, where I travel to the US, obviously North America being our largest market. But it is more about the people, right? So, and if you were looking at the Americans from another lens, you would think doom and gloom, but it's not, right? It's not. It's actually they suit, Americans suit me really well. The pace, especially the pace of work and the integrity of work. So I've ended being a citizen of the world, but pretty much, yeah.
I like it. So you moved from Mauritius, and Mauritius is for those, I'm actually not even ultra familiar with it, but my understanding is it's a fairly small island, right? But also just exceptionally beautiful from what I could tell.
Right.
I mean, just like
it
really,
is.
it's kind of a paradise.
It is. It is very much paradise. So yeah. So Indian Ocean. So you've got Africa, Madagascar, and a tiny dot there, Mauritius. About 1.2, 1.5 million people. Right.
It's a good amount of people on this.
Yeah. So is it overpopulated? It could be worse, right? It could be worse. I've seen worse. Or
Sure.
you could go to Turkey, and or other locations where you really feel the density. But it is paradise, right? So beautiful water and beautiful food, beautiful people, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, what took did you move with your family to Auckland, or what was it that took you there?
Right. So I moved with my partner at the time. So we separated since, but we moved together when I was 29 then, yeah, right? So, and decided to move from a small island to a bigger island, Auckland, New Zealand, right? So, and I think the move was driven by a few factors, but the scale is one of them, right? So when you think about New Zealand, why it suits me is because it is, from a productivity point of view, you get places from A to B fairly quickly, right? 25 minutes, you can get from one meeting to the next one. If you are driving, that was prior to COVID, right? So after COVID, obviously everything went online, right? So, and which sort of made things even better, but less people on the road, more people working from home. But generally speaking, the size, right? So you bump into people, and it has this sort of community feel, right? As opposed to if you look at Australia, which is more stretched, right? So, and then you got the US, which is across 50 states, where you have long distances, 5 hours of driving and so on, that I do here. The scale, when you are working and you want to be productive, it really suits you. The other thing is temperature. So New Zealand is fairly cool. So if I had to work in Mauritius, which is fully tropical, the heat is quite numbing you in a way, right? So you become less productive. You can do less meetings in a day. I process a lot of data, in my head, all day, every day. So I think it does help when you have a fairly consistent and cool temperature. And I found that to be really effective in New Zealand. Yeah.
I mean, that's a good point. Coming from here where we are in Utah, I would think of New Zealand as a warmer climate. It probably is, but also it is subtropical. And so comparing to Mauritius, that's a really good point that, the cooling aspect, and just people will say, when it gets hot anywhere, heat takes something out of you. It's hard on your body in some ways. And so that's an interesting perspective. All right.
And I would argue that you could, you would be performing better in Utah than Texas, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean, right?
Sure.
So
if you're working outside, especially in
right.
a hot environment,
right? In construction, right? So outside, you would be performing more.
That's a fair point. I mean, I don't know the science behind it, but logically, I see it. I like it. All right, so you moved to Auckland when you're 29, and then that became home pretty quickly. Were you already working in manufacturing and robotics prior to that, or did you jump into the business when you got to Auckland?
So I was working mainly in irrigation engineering. So So and I came to New Zealand. I carried on, and then plants and being my babies, I really wanted to get back to that. This is something I had since I was very little. The nature and plants in general were really something that I always valued, made me really happy since I was a child. So decided after a few years in engineering into landscaping and construction. And started a business then, which was 15 years ago then, at a time. And so started the Branche Landscapes, which is the landscaping practice, and then ran the practice for 15 years, which led me to the other ventures. Yeah.
Got it. So it's insightful that you said that you enjoyed plants since you were a kid.
Right.
So did you? How did you learn that about yourself? Did you how did you realize? I really like plants.
As far as I can remember, I grew up on a beach, basically, on the water, and I remember collecting those pods, and I would have been, sort of 12, 13, and collecting those pods on the beach. And twisting those little plants, casuarinas. This is what they are actually trees, and twisting them together and planting them as a hedge. And then, being a tropical island, those plants becoming trees would grow fairly quickly, and those twisted, almost bonsai-looking plants would grow up as a twisted hedge. So as far as I can remember, I was always in symbiosis with plants, and they just made me really happy. And that never left me, right? Never left me.
That's cool. It's incredible how those little things that you when you're a kid, right, that you see they could easily be, put to the side as, oh, this is just something I did to pass the time as a child. But there's sometimes there's something to that turns into something as an adult. I like that. I can imagine you just like on the beach, planting these little trees and weaving them together and like being curious. And it seems like you have a very curious mind already.
Yeah, very curious mind. Yeah.
I like that. And also, you're talking about growing up near the water. There's not a lot of places. I don't know. Look, when you look at Mauritius on a map, it's tiny. It's like a dot, right? But obviously, 1.3 million, I think you said, live there. So it's decent. But I mean, my assumption is that there are not too many places on the island that are very far from the water, right? I mean, you're pretty
right.
There's a lot of place for you to build hedges and do this.
Right. So you're never really far from the water in Mauritius. You don't have to travel too far to get there. And obviously the coast line is where people live. And then obviously you've got the more central cities. In New Zealand, it is even more profound, so you have more water. So wherever you go, you don't really have east and west because it is quite stretched between the north and the south, so the way the island is shaped. But and you are never far from the water. There's water everywhere, and I'm a slalom water skier, so I ski as much as I can. So it really is something that in New Zealand we have, right? So being close and connected to the water. Yeah,
that's cool. I like that. All right, so you're in Auckland, and we're kind of following the timeline here. So you're in Auckland. You started your landscape design company from background in irrigation, and so then where did you go after you ran that for 15 years? But am I right in that there's some overlap between running the landscape design company and then moving into it wasn't like a sequential, right? You ran this company for 15 years, and then you moved and just started doing what you're doing now.
Right. Yeah. So someone asked me the question, how did you transition from construction to Formula One? That was his, biotechnology, right? So that's what we do with wearable robotics and exoskeletons and AI and so on. So for me, it wasn't technology driven somehow. It was more caring for my staff. So I basically I had been running the practice for some time, and I could see the toll on my team and on myself. I was on the tools at the time, and we had diggers and equipments and so on, but I could see the toll on my staff. So and I at some point I was just thinking, well, none of us would be able to pick up our grandkids if we carry on. We will just, our retirement doesn't really look very promising at all. So with that, I look at technologies to be able to help my own staff. And from there, I didn't have, everyone on earth at a time. It was just about 20 people at a time in that team. So it was a very personal challenge, right, that I had, or some sort of KPI that I wanted to solve for myself and my team. It wasn't, exoskeleton look cool, and I want to be part of this industry, and I want to, contribute to this industry. So it was a natural progression. So it was, as you mentioned, it wasn't a clear cut. And I didn't abandon one to move on to the other. It was a natural progression where I could see not just my own staff who would benefit from it, but now we have 12 verticals at ExoVantage, right? So whether you are in manufacturing, construction, aerospace and defense, logistics, retail, primary industries, like forestry, dairy, and so on. So, but of course, I didn't have everyone working in those industries at the time. It came naturally, and the company started from a very personal challenge.
That makes a lot of sense. So let me paraphrase this to make sure I understand it. It sounded like, so you're working on the tools, like you said, and realizing, my body, even if I take care of it, even if I take care of it really well, it has an odometer on it, right? It's tracking the kilometers and the miles. And so if I want to be able to have a long, fulfilling life and be able to, not fulfilling, if I want to make the most use of my body, I should find a way to reduce the wear and tear on it effectively.
That's right.
So that's where the connection to exoskeletons came. So did you that's it? Okay.
That's right.
So then did you then at that point go out and try to procure some of these exoskeletons?
That's right.
Okay, so you went out and you tried.
I had to start somewhere,
right?
Okay. So we weren't manufacturers at the time, so I had to start somewhere, and testing the limitations of the products, which was really, beneficial to me personally as we were going, the company was evolving into, pivoting into being a sort of yes, I can see that will solve those challenges, and then pivoting into being a distributor, and then being a fully integrated solution provider, to now being a manufacturer. So, but I had to go, I spent about sort of 4,000 hours by myself, without, that was prior to incorporating the board and the company as we know right now. But I had to go through those hard sort of understanding for myself, is that valuable to the world, right? Is that valuable to those, manufacturing companies, the logistic companies? And at the time, as I was in New Zealand, the first mover, there was no other company. I didn't have a benchmark to, today we have humanoid robots, and you can compare, everyone talks about it, everyone knows about it. But at the time, exoskeletons were very foreign.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to get on a plane 3 times a week for the first couple, 3 years to do that and understand,
wow,
is that valuable? Yeah, it is very hard, right? So it's very hard because you have to push through, right? So, and believe that it is actually valuable to, the workforce and corporations. And it's obviously, challenging being the first mover. So, yeah.
So what did you find those early ones were missing as you started? So you're getting on a plane 3 times a week, and actually, let me back that question off. You're getting on a plane 3 times a week, and is this to go? And are you working to test different products, or is this where?
No, it's not quite technology driven at the time. I'm just trying to understand the KPIs and the challenges of those companies. So I'm asking them questions.
Got it.
Because they don't know what they don't know, right? So now the technology is obviously at ExoVantage, we're increasing productivity, safety while reducing costs. So this is for the procurement and the CFOs, very ROI driven. And then on the other side, for the health and safety managers and the ergonomists, it is what we call compassionate engineering. So reducing strain, pain, injuries, claims, being able to go to your family's healthy and not having to stretch your back or waking up broken. And, so even those companies, they couldn't think of those KPIs or those challenges, right? So they were thinking about a few, but not all of them. So it took some time to understand the KPIs of these companies. Is the problem real? And then the solutions, right? So this is where the technology comes into place. And this is more from a user point of view, right? So is the user acceptance high? Because you are introducing a new technologies. People don't like change, right? So this is a PPE, a new PPE, right? So if you go back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you would probably come on a site in flip-flop, right? Gendals, no hard hats and nothing. So today, no one is questioning, right, that they are wearing a hard hat.
Sure.
No one is questioning that they are wearing steel cap shoes. So the same had to happen with exoskeletons, where they're not questioning it, right? So it is a natural progression of PPE tools for the Department of Defense. It is a tool, not a PPE, but so that took some time, right? Sure. You can't, even if we had AI at the time to accelerate the process and scale faster, I don't think you could do that without that phase of education of the CEOs and the CFOs going around the world and understanding, wow, okay, well, we have a technology that can multiply humans as we are facing the new change in demographic.
Got it. That's interesting. So when you went back and you were first investigating exoskeletons, when you kind of saw this need, what were they like? I mean, also put it in perspective for me, what time frame this is. Like how many years ago are we looking?
So that I started that journey 8 years ago.
Okay.
Right. So I worked by myself about sort of 3 years. And then I met with my chairman, Rob Sherlock, who came as a sort of a kind of semi-retiring from his CEO role in Asia. And we connected through friends. And I think that he saw what I saw, which is, the future of work and safety, right? Mm-hmm. I think that, I probably pitched well, but I think that he did see that there was a future for this technology as well. And then from there, so that was kind of like sort of 5 years ago. And then from there, we, added more directors and shareholders to the company, which was amazing, right? So I made sure that I stayed the youngest of the company and the dumbest, and trying to have, all the team, really smart team, and seasoned investors, and looking at how we're going to be shaping the future of work and safety in the next 60 months. So that was at that time, yeah.
So was that the key then? You mentioned that the pitch was obviously part of it, right? So you got to get people to sign up and invest their time. Most importantly, what do you think the key to your pitch was back when you're thinking back there?
Right. I think it was always to do with obviously leveraging or reducing strain, pain of people, because that's where the idea came from. And I don't think that even today that is eroded at all. I think the core of the company is really much about, if you take out of the equation the ROI aspect, which is low cost, low risk. So that's fantastic, for a procurement person or CFO to sign on the deployment of the technology. But purely from a human-centric point of view, that has never left, and it's still the core of the company today, right? So it's about leveraging technologies to reduce the strain, pain, and injuries, possible injuries and claims, and then that transition into more KPIs, ESG performances, especially the S, which is the social aspect, which is always buried. And we talk about, the other components of ESG performances have been talked about for a long time, but the social aspect, which means feeling happy at work, has been buried, and the technology is now being able to address that as well, right? So I feel that my company cares for me, and I feel much happier working knowing that I'm not going to be under tremendous, pressure and load, bending, handling, lifting every day on those pack lines or logistics or whatever.
So it sounds like a big part of that happiness factor is then the ability for people to know, effectively, like, I'm not going to ruin my body for this job,
right?
And so being able to give them a little more durability there. So you've been in the exoskeleton area, even indirectly, for quite a while. So what do you think? What do you think looking back to the earlier versions compared to where we are now? What were the early versions missing? Would you say? What were the you mentioned
we have addressed?
Yeah,
right? So
totally.
Right,
but
yes,
I'm just
right
to contrast that. I think it'll be interesting to hear about how they. We're kind of where we came from with
Sure. So the components that you're trying to, I think, always try to improve on is always based on user acceptance. So the technology might work out from an ROI point of view, and the CFO is happy to sign, this initiative, but. At the end of the day, it's all about the users, right?
Yeah.
So, and what you want to address there is reducing weight, right? Because as you are carrying the weight of this technology, it is on you. Our technology is 1.8 pounds, right? So 800 grams. So it weighs basically nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
and that will get better and better over time. And
it's like a bottle of water, right?
That's right. Yeah, packet of pasta, right?
That's nothing.
That weighs nothing.
Wow.
And that will get better and better. Being breathable. So we mentioned, Texas, for instance, right? So where we have, companies that we support and augment there. Heat, right? So having a product which is as breathable as possible is key, especially where in summer, in, let's say, logistics in Texas or something like that, right? This is heat is already there, so you want to make sure that the product is as breathable as possible, and then as little or as less components as possible, right, on the product. So the more minimal you go, I feel the better. So somehow you'll see two schools. You'll see the big, clunky, sort of heavy, shiny looking exoskeletons, right? That you might see in the movies and so on. And I'm not even talking about, powered exoskeletons or passive exoskeletons, right? So this is obviously a difference there where you have a battery operated one versus a purely mechanical one, which the ones that we prefer for weight and use. But just from purely from early on, when we were, looking at how we're going to scale this technology, I realized early on that instead of having a big product, which is, quite impressive, going the completely opposite with a very minimal product, as invisible as possible, was really the key for success. And the reason is that, especially at the time, we were dealing with a lot of boomers. So now, time has gone. We're dealing with Gen X's and millennials and Gen Z's. But so that sort of changed a bit. But the staff at the time that were maybe sort of in their late 40s, 50, and so on, they didn't want to appear weak or disabled, right? So this is more cultural, right? So you go in a plant and you would have sort of macho, right, kind of dynamic, and especially big tough guys, they think that because they're big and so on, that they will appear weak or disabled, right, somehow, and they didn't want that, right? So it was quite difficult to go for this kind of social, cultural aspect, whether it is the company itself or the community or the state, whatever it is, right? So where sometimes it is stronger than most, right? But some companies were happy early on to pass this cultural aspect. They were more progressive towards change and embracing new technologies, and the way I think they help us to get there as well was really valuable.
Interesting. So was the minimalist approach, was that driven by, more would you say, by the desire to I can't think of the right word, but just to remove that barrier to entry from certain people who were like, I don't want to wear it, and so the smaller it is, the more inconspicuous it'll be and the more likely I'll be to wear it? Or was it also from a functional perspective? Do you find more functional benefit from having the more minimalist approach with the exoskeletons?
Right, both. Yeah, I'd say both. But definitely from having a product which is as light as possible and as invisible as possible is really key. So many staff would wear their high visibility vests over the product, right? So even though the product is becoming now itself a high visibility, where we have the bands, the reflective bands, at the front, at the back, and so on. When we started, it was especially in civil engineering and construction, where you have, this is a very macho type of industry, big guys, and right. So they were using the technology under their high visibility there. So it was kind of invisible, right? Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk more about this approach to the type of exoskeleton, if we can, because you mentioned a minute ago that they're the two camps that win it, or even two different types of, powered or non-powered. You chose to go with the non-powered approach.
That's right.
So can you? Yeah, I'm just curious to, I don't know what it was that kind of led you down that path versus I don't know, just I guess versus the alternative.
Right. So when I look at the technology early on, I did feel that having a light, invisible product was the way to go. So powered exoskeletons have their roles, right? So they are allowing you to work, to lift more than you should, right? So there's some obviously applications around that. However, you are carrying the batteries and they're not light, and you have to recharge the batteries, and the cost is obviously 100 times more, right? We're not even talking, small difference, a lot more.
So when you say 100, that's not hyperbole. Like literally, it could be like significantally more.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Significantly more, right? So you would have, let's say in defense applications where we have to lift, specific, whether they are missiles or whatever, in kind of logistics, where that person would wear a fully powered exoskeleton. That's where it would potentially help, this person to be able to do that, lifting, 200 pounds by yourself, essentially.
Yeah.
So, but, I think, to me, it was, a meaningful social change means really much having an impact as scale as possible, not just benefiting a few, right? So, and I look at the market and how we can help, as many staff as possible. And clearly the way it is to go with, lightweight, passive exoskeletons that are treated as commodities, right? So nothing sci-fi, nothing, crazy about it, but more of a tool to be able to do more with less, right? So that's what it is designed for.
That's cool. I can see this. So by decreasing costs, you can increase the access, and then you can ultimately increase the volume of impact there. So then, what is the huge for the layman like myself who's just not in the world at all, the world of exoskeletons at all? You described the benefit of the battery powered ones, for example, being you can lift a ton more than yourself, right? Which is great. Right. So how do you describe the main benefit of the passive exoskeletons then? Is it
basically scale, right? So again, you can have, if you are technology driven and you can think of an exoskeleton, you can have the best technology in the world, but if you're not able to scale that technology, you only benefit a few, right? And that's not social change at all. What kind of success is that?
Sure.
So going towards something which is as light as possible and as close to a PPE is what I think will allow as many people as possible to be empowered, augmented, and supported by the technology, right? So it was purely sort of user acceptance as well, right? So as you can imagine, if you are walking in a logistic facility, you are on your feet quite a lot and carrying 5-10 kgs of technology on your back. Yes, it helps you to not break with this movement that you're doing, but we have our technology being sort of 500 grams, and that is where I see that anyone can put it on. It looks like a backpack. It's not very difficult to grasp, and the fear of using the technology, the beer, is removed, right? So yeah.
But you mentioned, and that makes perfect sense. And you mentioned that it augments, so there still is an augmentative capacity to it. Is it that? And I'm just going to make this up. Tell me here, but like, let's say normally, Jeff, I could lift 100 pounds. Is it with the battery powered one? Maybe I could lift 250 pounds, but with a passive one, I could still lift 120. Is that right? It's still going to help me be able to be stronger and more robust. It's just, yeah. Okay.
So
that's what I was trying to get at.
So just to clarify, so
thanks.
When you're using an exoskeleton, a passive one, you're not supposed to lift more than you should.
Oh, okay. So it's not that. Okay,
yes, that's right.
Got it.
All it does is transferring the strain, pain, or the pressure, let's say, on your lower back. If you are using a back exoskeleton, transferring this impact to, let's say, your thighs, which are anchored to the ground. So it's a shift basically of a transfer of impact, right? So you would transfer that impact where you have no impact.
This makes sense, thighs, right? Where you can take it better. So like, this isn't the exact thing, but like, if you ever go backpacking, right? If you old backpack, you wear it just on your shoulders. If you put a hip belt on, transfer that down to your hips. It's okay. That makes perfect sense.
Right.
Okay. So it's increasing durability, which in turn is going to make you stronger, keep you stronger and healthier in the long run, and going to be all around. Okay. I totally get this now. I totally get it now. Are they comfortable to wear?
Yeah, very comfortable, and obviously comfort is a big part of user acceptance, right? So this is what it comes to, and but again, having something as breathable as possible and light, and allow you to do more and better during the day than if you were not supported by the technology. Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking realistically that I obviously never put one on, but I'm thinking realistically, like you mentioned a packet of pasta, right? Like if I happen to go to work one day and be wearing a coat, like I have a sweater on and I had like a packet of pasta in my pocket, there's a real probability that I could work all day and just forget that I have that thing in my pocket.
Right. And it takes about a week, right? It takes about, So the if you were in a pilot stage, we would monitor that pilot for over 1 week, right? So your body will, after a week, and we do that as progressively as possible, not to confuse your body, right? So, but after 1 week, your body's kind of understanding the support because you had none all those years.
Yeah.
And so now you are able to, your body is able to understand, with muscle memory, understand the support and work and be fully embedded with the technology. Yeah.
Do you lose any range of motion at all when you're doing these things?
No. So we did obviously some studies, kind of over 24 months, also to find out two things. Do you get addicted to the technology, right?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So if I take it from you after 6 months, what happened, right? So, and then, what happens if after, do I get addicted or, to that technology or not? So, and what we did find is that just like going to the gym, if you go to the gym and you are, lifting weight and so on, and then you stop going to the gym, well, you don't go weaker, right? So you just go back to where you were, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and the same kind of applies with exoskeletons, where yes, your body kind of remembers that you don't have the support right now, but at the same time, you don't get any weaker. So your big muscles, your small muscles, and your ligaments are still working, but the impact on your lower back and and then your shoulders, elbows, and wrists, and so on, is very much reduced. Using the technology. Yeah.
That's really, really interesting. You mentioned I'm thinking about this now from the aspect of the 12 verticals that you described. There's a lot of different use cases here for them. Is it a one exoskeleton fits all from your perspective? So like if I was working in the dairy vertical or one of the other verticals that you mentioned, would I need a different type of exoskeleton, or is it just how does that work? Do you adapt it to your movements? Or?
Right. So if you look at the largest market here in the US, we have 33 million businesses, right? So this is the largest market that we have. Most of these businesses have some sort of logistic facility attached to them.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And so usually globally, you would have 350 million people daily suffering from low back pain as a result of working on the floor, in the world. So that is what we are addressing there. And the back exosuits that we manufacture able to look at the general basically impact, right? So where is the most impact that we do see? And then we have obviously these are the back exosuits basically, and then you would dive more into the more specific workstations where you are working at height and you need a shoulder exoskeleton,
okay.
right? So whether you are stripping rivets on planes, or whether you are an electrician, cabling,
drywall installer with your hands above your head all the time. Yeah.
Right. So, panels on the ceilings and so on, painters, right? So you work all these workstations, but the general one is the most impact is on the back. That's what it is globally, right? So, and whether you are, mom and dad at home loading the dishwasher, you're getting a bit older, making your bed. That's even though we work in the industrial space, we have these inquiries from just people at home wanting to do some gardening, weeding, as they get older, and there is no one to care for that at home with them. And obviously the industrial use within those 12 verticals, right? So and that's the biggest impact that we have, right? So using the technology, and then you could dive into more specific ones.
Is there like a consumer angle or vertical there? Here's what I'm thinking. I just don't know. But I know a lot of people with lower back pain, especially just as you get older, but like who sit in a chair like this all day, every day, and they're like, oh, my freaking back hurts, and did you do any studies on that by chance?
We don't specialize in this. There's some companies that do ergonomic, desks and right. So working, standing, or ergonomic. But we specialize in industrial exoskeletons. That's our main market because we want to make a difference to the global workforce. That's what we are into.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So a minute ago, we've talked about the passive exoskeletons a little bit, but a minute ago you talked about just kind of in passing some AI enhanced exoskeletons, and I'm going to make an assumption, which is usually a bad idea, I know, but my assumption is that when there's AI involved, there has to be some sort of power source. And so maybe I was wondering how does that work? How do those two things go together? And what the connection of AI with an exoskeleton and how that works. I think that's super, super interesting.
Right. So with the AI part, which is really good, it is more about data, right? So to predict and prevent injuries before they happen.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what it is. And so we are using wearable sensors, AI-driven wearable sensors, to basically predict what might happen before they happen. So, and that's where, the AI really is, meaningful to a user, is that, and a manager, right? So obviously a site manager who can see everyone working, he can see the challenges that they do have. He can predict what is about to happen. So I think that's where the AI infrastructure is able to give more than just physical support, but also the data, right? So you can map that out. Using the data, you can map out what is about to happen and predict those upcoming challenges.
Fascinating. So would the scenario be like these are passive sensors that are within the exoskeleton, and then at the end of the day, you're retrieving that data from the exoskeleton, or is this happening in real time?
That's right. So both, right? So real time, real time. You can see what is currently happening, and then obviously the dashboard will build up. So you've got all the data of every single person, basically, staff working, and that data is very valuable, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if you think of, big retail company in the US, you might think of them as retail, but they're actually a data company. So they are capturing data to, in all sorts of ways to basically forecast whether it is more, productivity forecast, or, cost reduction forecast, or workforce analysis, right? So what is currently happening, and it's really useful because this is going on all day, every day. So you get a lot of data, and you are able to be quite accurate, obviously, with the output of the data. Yeah.
That's really, really interesting. So, what kind of data do you find to be the most impactful? And also, just can you share about what metrics you're tracking with people throughout the day?
Right. So movement is one of them. So obviously you're bending all day, every day. So let's say you are, health and safety manager or an ergonomist, and you would want to know how many times this person is bending, so that you are able to tell this person, take a break before this person knows that she needs to take a break, right? So the right now, or prior to using, AI and ethical data within the system, is health and safety managers would just say, well, we can see from the reporting that, the strain, pain, injuries is increasing as, the pace is increasing. It could be, Christmas coming, or, e-commerce has exploded after COVID, and so on. And we can see that, there is some challenges there, and we'll just take more breaks.
Yeah.
They kind of, okay, we'll just do more breaks, right? So, but now with the data, we are able to be more accurate. And this, when you look at a team, you might divide this team. Well, this person still can go and work healthily without it. She doesn't have an impact, but this person here, needs a break, right? So you are more productive because you don't have to stop the entire operation, as usually it is the case. And everyone goes on a break, and they, now we got a 15 minutes break and so on. So now you are able to manage whether they are your fleet, right? So your man up, so your forklift, and, in your operations, and also people, right? So, and categorize better, right? So categorize better and make better decision. That's what it is about.
You're also reducing risk, I'm thinking, right? I mean, because to your point, you can estimate. You can go back to that example of, Christmas time, people are going to be doing more of movement X. So let's take more breaks. Well, what if someone's an outlier there and they're still not going to be able to? Let's assume that you say we'll double the amount of breaks. Well, for a couple of people, that might not be enough, and so you could reduce risk by actually having real information to know. Okay, that's really interesting. And then also changing it by the movement. So you're tracking not only just movements. Are you able to track things like, going back, the example of working outside, for example,
temperature,
temperature, and like
absolutely,
your body, your heart rate. You could be like, Jeff's getting dehydrated. We should get him
That's right.
something.
That's right. All of that, right? So
that's cool.
yeah, absolutely. So and it's getting better and better, obviously, right? So, but temperature, there's a lot of people in logistics that work into the cold rooms, and the matrix that they used to use before was when your eyelashes, start to freeze. That's when you need to get out of the freezer, right?
Actually,
really? Yeah, that was a metric, right? So
wow.
And right, so now you would have your light that would flash, and you know that you need to get out of the freezer and take a break, right? So it is really useful, right, to have the sensors being able to do that.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I was gonna, I'll just ask a question. I'm assuming that these are just they're low. The sensors are low enough energy requirement that they pretty much it's having a power source is not really a requirement. You're putting like a small watch.
That's right. Something. That's right. Yeah. Just like a watch. Yeah.
Nice. So, speaking of like a watch, do you think there's a time when we'll like a kinetic energy watch, like an automatic winding watch? You think we'll see a time when exoskeletons are self-winding, so to speak?
Right. Yeah. I thought about that. And it will definitely come. But I think we might end up, if you think of a wetsuit for a surfer, right? If you think of a surfer, I think as we go towards, technology becomes more and more, better in terms of weight and so on, we might end up with an exoskeleton, which is actually a second skin, right? So where you put it on like a wetsuit, essentially, and able to, cool your body, in heat, you've got all of that, but it is on you, right? So, you are fully augmented with that second skin. So I think that's where it's going to go. I'm not sure the time frame of that. I think might be a few people working on this, but it will take some time, because it's like having to start a shoe company, right? So where you have all the sizes and all the models, and it's a logistical and manufacturing nightmare. So when you have to fit every single body, for comfort, it becomes very challenging. So that's why we have a product which is as universal as possible, so that it is easy, for the leadership teams to purchase and roll out the technology without thinking about sizes and all these things.
Yeah, you can learn a lot about people from get some more data, and then you'll have a good understanding of what effectively needs. And I could also see that making a lot of sense. I mean, the technology seems like it's already pretty minimal, and so like it wouldn't be that. I could see a future where, I could see a future where it's exactly described. Also, it's really easy for me to imagine that because I don't know anything about what goes into it. I'm just but so you're involved in exoskeletons, but you're like not just involved in exoskeletons, right?
Right.
I mean, you have a ton of irons in the fire.
Right.
What else are you excited about right now? What are you working on that else you have ongoing?
So
you have ongoing, I should say.
Yeah, I've started Astelia Robotics, so a humanoid robot company. At the beginning, when I was using the exoskeletons in plants, and that was actually way before the buzz and the hype around humanoid robots. It was prior to that, where I would go to a plant and I would think, this person needs to be relocated to another workstation because this is extremely repetitive or dangerous, right? But we didn't have the technology at the time.
Sure.
So we could only rely on exoskeletons. So we were augmenting those staff, but really they should be moved, those staff should have be relocated in lighter tasks where they are, feeling more valued and less taxing environment on them, especially around the danger, right? So a meat slicer, for instance, right? So these blades work, and I've noticed that way before the wave of robotics sort of came along. And then when I was obviously working on ExoVantage and scaling ExoVantage, I saw the natural progression of having, robots complementing, right? So what we would do, with the exoskeleton, so some stuff would be, these workstations, we would relocate those staff to lighter ones, have humanoid robots working there. And why humanoid robots is because the shape and is shaped like a person, so you can retrofit this technology without having to change anything, right? So,
that makes sense.
That is the goal, right? So it is basically like a person. So, and then I didn't want ExoVantage to get out of focus, right? So I wanted them to focus on, we have so much more to build, right? So, and instead of having the humanoid robots being straight away part of ExoVantage, I thought to myself, well, I will not, get the focus out of, the team working on what we're building at ExoVantage. I'll start another company and get some traction there without affecting the focus of ExoVantage whatsoever. And eventually it will be complementary. That's what I see, right? So those two companies would be complementary. So with Astelia Robotics is very much, the goal is there's probably two main applications, 2 or 3 main applications. So the first one would be, we need to get to the moon, right? So we need to get to the moon. So we need to get manufacturing of
the actual moon,
right? Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So we need to get the manufacturing of the planet, so we can reclaim the planet and care for it better. So every that will happen within sort of 20 years, I'd say, right? So where manufacturing start, going suborbit, but we got to get our robots ready to go, and we are hoping to get that within sort of 24 months, where the robots are able to build the infrastructure on the moon. And the reason is the gravity on Earth is 5 times greater than the moon, right? So so it takes a lot of thrust and a lot of fuel to get to the moon, right? Because the gravity is so challenging here. So for us to be a truly multi-stellar species, we need to have a base on the moon, and we will need a lot of robots. And I don't feel comfortable sending people there, right? So if we get, Astelia Robotics to build the craft and everything that we need to get there, we don't want to be sending people first, that will come later. So we look at Artemis, right? We were supposed to launch tomorrow, right? Artemis, and it's going to be now in March, because there's, obviously 4 people in the rocket going to the moon, around the moon. So it's a lot of pressure, there's 4 people in there. It's a lot of, obviously infrastructure around that. And I think instead of going, big rockets with a lot of thrust and a lot of fuel, I want to go as low cost, low risk as possible. So having the robots to have a shield protection, right? So to sustain the blasting of the radiation from the sun as you are on the moon, and then getting the AI working really well, performing well here on Earth, and so that we can send and they can build the platforms and the fulfillment centers and everything else on the moon. The DOF, the degrees of freedom, right? So having the hands to work really well, so they can handle anything. So really the idea was, again, not, sending anyone, but sending the robots to do the hard work really makes sense. So then we have a real bridge between Earth and the moon, so we can go further and further without having to deal with the gravity that requires those big rockets to go. Right?
You mentioned Artemis. I actually don't know what Artemis is. You said it was going to launch today, but now it's going to go.
Yeah. So tomorrow Artemis 2 is a rocket that goes from NASA, right? So it's the mission. It was supposed to be launched tomorrow to go to the moon after 50 years of we haven't been there. So it's a 10-day journey. So around the moon and then back. We're not landing. We're just going around it and then coming back. And it was supposed to be tomorrow, the launch, but it will be now delayed in March, right? Okay. So they pushed it with 30 days, by 30 days, but it takes a lot of infrastructure to get there. Yeah.
So do you imagine these are the idea for the robots that you're talking about building, which brother makes a lot of sense? Are you talking about them? Are these autonomous robots, like completely, or are they more remote control?
They might be both, right? Because communication now, we got the bridge, right? So we have all the infrastructure in terms of communication between the moon and Earth. So I think it might be a combination of someone working from Earth on handling that robot. But ideally, you want 24/7, right? You want that robot to work 24/7. fully protected with the shield pads from the radiation, and able to start, the base and the colony that we might have on the moon within maybe 7 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So about the pace of it, and I heard that Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos has, I think, stopped space tourism, focusing on the moon, right? So everyone wants to build a base as fast as we can, so we can get communication, we can get manufacturing, we can get a better base for us to go multi-stellar, basically, as this is the goal, right? So trying to go as basically going out there in the universe and exploring. Yeah.
That's cool.
And then on Earth, we will have a defense application, right? So for us, we believe that, well, humans have been on Earth 300,000 years. Conflict seems to be inevitable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that it fully seems to be fully embedded in humanity. We seems to be at war with each other. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. But what we can do and will do is completely remove fatalities, right? So we don't want people to go out there, and get killed. So we want to build robots that you can, send your robots, they can fight each other. There is no casualties. That's very meaningful to us, right? So in terms of social impact. So that is also a focus for us, building the robots that are able to reduce those casualties or eradicate them completely. So, head of states and countries can use their robots and as opposed to people.
Yeah.
So, and then, obviously on Earth, you'll have all the change in demographic where slowly but surely within the next 120 months, progressively, people very likely would not want to work in a factory, as we see right now, right? We can already see the shift from a Gen Z person, a 20-year-old kind of person. So I think progressively the humanoid robots will complement obviously the exoskeletons, because we are still screaming for staff. This is, we need more staff than ever, as every company is scaling. But and then the humanoid will complement the exoskeletons, and you might see some corporations with just using robots, and where people are doing what people should do, and lighter tasks and more meaningful tasks, as opposed to working hard on their bodies. And we can see it from the parents, right? So they aspire their children to be lawyers and doctors and AI analysts, not working in a factory so much, right? So we can see the trend. So it's not just the workers themselves, but it's how they are brought up, and how their parents, would want them to thrive in this world. Yeah,
that's cool. How long do you think it is till we'll see like humanoid robots doing actual like real tasks like that in a in like a regular environment? Right now, I see them. I think I've only seen them, in labs or in videos.
Right.
Like Boston Scientific?
Dynamics.
Boston Dynamics. Thank you, Boston Dynamics. Right. Things like that. But how long do you think it'll be till you might see one on the, on the job site, or even, at a desk typing away?
Right. So if I look at the most advanced ones, like Optimus from Tesla, right? So I think Musk will be, getting his Optimus perfect, good AI and very safe to operate, and within the next sort of year or two, right?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and obviously the goal of Musk is to go to Mars direct, and so he will want to get the robots to, when he gets, Starship to go to Mars, he will want to load that probably with robots and start mapping out and building and so on. So he needs to get obviously the robots ready, and I think he's making really good progress. They've been performing tasks for the last sort of 3 years now. So he's getting, the AI to work really well and so on. So I think he's definitely getting there with, accuracy and resilience and so on. Some Figure AI had some success in Germany, right? So the BMW had used the robots for over 12 months, where no humans whatsoever. So it was just the robots.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's going really well for Helix now. That's the name of their robots. So it is advancing very quickly. And then we have obviously NVIDIA, who is coming along with their robots and other companies as well. So China is obviously extremely advanced in terms of robotics and AI because they're of their low kind of compliance and if someone gets hurt, they don't care so much as in here in the US, right? So would be a big problem, right? So we don't have that's the difference. But Musk, I think, is abandoning almost the manufacturing of the cars and will be focusing on the robots. He's already discontinued some models.
I read that
that
he was changing some of the factories, repurposing them to be focused from a couple of cars to I think they're the robots.
Right. Yeah. As he's competing, with big, like BYD and so on in China, right? It's very difficult to compete. And, so we're getting good traction, I think, and it will go faster than we think. I think we will see many robots performing tasks at home and in factories faster than we think. Yeah.
Can you say, and we can cut this full question out if you want me to ask it, but do you know what the cost is to build one of those robots right now?
Well, the cost is getting lower and lower. Sure. So, if you had 100K, you would probably build a robot, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Which isn't bad. I mean, that's a lot of money, right? $100,000. Truckloads of money.
Actuators and parts, and they are, there's a lot of them available now. It's so the motors and so if you had 100K in your pocket, you could probably build a robot, right? Sure. So and open source, and China has open source everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, open source everything. Yeah. So that's they're not interested in sort of patents and all of that. It's all open source, so you can access all their and I think it was to do obviously with getting there as fast as possible. Yeah.
So when you say if you have 100K in your pocket and you wanted to go, you could go use the same open source code and software that folks in China are using, and then you could literally build your own robot. That's wild.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's wild. And then obviously with economies of scale, the more you build of those, you can get them cheaper and better.
This is all scale driven.
Wow. You mentioned that you're focused on, you think the moon is the future of production. And that's an interesting idea. And then you also mentioned that Elon Musk is focusing on Mars. So what do you think the difference is there with the two? Just curious why. I think I have an idea, but I don't know. So I would love your insight on that.
For Musk, it's about terraforming Mars, right? Okay. So he believes somehow that Mars is the good one, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a good planet that we can terraform the planet.
Got it.
Build domes, habitats, and so on, right? So as quickly as we can, and then obviously sending humans in those protected habitats so that they don't get blasted by the radiation, and ultimately creating some sort of atmosphere, right? So, and it eventually will happen, but he wants to send 1 million people to Mars. That's what he wants, to create a real colony where if there is any kind of challenges between the two, right, Earth and Mars, if there is no communication or the ships can't get one place or the other, they are self-sustainable, right? They are able to eat and survive and without being dependent on the other. So he's picked obviously Mars as the first planet to colonize, and basically as we become multi-planetary species, that's his goal. And but the moon is extremely important because we got to get everything from the moon to Mars, right? As opposed to from Earth to Mars, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it becomes a stopping point then, right?
That
makes sense.
Yeah. So the journey is also very long. You got to have alignment with the planets, right? So to get to Mars, it's like a 2-year thing, right? So you got to to map that out. So it's not that easy. But if you did have a base on the moon, you would be able to access a lot more quicker, no gravity, sort of low fuel wherever we need to go. Right? Yeah.
Makes sense. That's interesting. And what kind of manufacturing do you think will take place on the moon? Do you think this will be more like I'm thinking like, do you think it'd be more along the lines of, cement concrete manufacturing, or more along the lines of like high end manufacturing, like chips and things like that?
I think personally, if I had to pick, I would say what is the most impactful in terms of pollution, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because obviously this is to do with my calling, which is social change, right? So as in claiming the planet. So mining, right? So instead of mining the earth, we could be mining asteroids, right? So this is where we're going.
That's interesting.
Right? So all the minerals are locked into the asteroids. There is a belt, around Earth. So there is a gigantic amount. So we are just figuring out the transportation, right? So getting the material back to Earth and so on. But at least we're not obviously damaging the planet. So, but anything to do, like mining but eventually I think that anything to do with, high pollution robots, building robots, will go up to space. That's what I think it will happen. And I think sooner than we think, right? So it's not a sort of 50, 100 years kind of thing. It's probably sooner than this, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? So are you thinking like, that you mentioned that you think we'll start seeing robots doing tasks within the next few years, I think. So what's the main blocker for, is it just the transport to the moon that is the hurdle right now? Or is it the obviously the radiation is a big one, right?
Yeah. So if you were a human would go out there, it would probably last maximum 4 years before dying, right?
Okay.
So of the radiation. So
you could last that long though?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. From what I can understand, you would last that long. But you wouldn't. Yeah.
You'd obviously need a suit, or
of course, right?
Okay.
Of course, right? So, but even that, right? So you would be blasted. But yeah, really, the goal is to have the robots to be operational and to do all these dangerous tasks, right? So going out there and setting a base and so on, before we send anyone. So the sooner we get the robots being able to do that, the better, right? So that's the goal, at least for us. Yeah,
that's fascinating. And I just don't know, but like if you were to send a robot up to do some work and it didn't have the radiation shields on it, would it basically just not last at all? Would it be gone, as soon as it came around and hit the sun? Or would it
both hardware and software would be impacted?
Really?
Yeah,
almost immediately.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wouldn't say immediately, but it would
pretty quick.
Be very long. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It is pretty strong.
Yeah. Something we didn't cover, Arnaud, as I was thinking, is that we are here. You mentioned you're from Mauritius, moved to Auckland as 29, but we're here in Utah, and you said you were your third home in Utah. We didn't talk much about the story about how you ended up in Utah, and I think that's interesting.
Right.
You want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. So what happened is about actually this week, 100 days ago, that marks this sort of anniversary. But 3 months ago, Governor Spencer Cox came with John Pierpont and other in a small delegation. They came to New Zealand, and at the time we were assessing where we would. We had an office in Houston, Texas, but we wanted to be able to have an office where we could scale from. And I don't believe in coincidences. And after talking to a few people in New Zealand, they said, hey, by the way, Governor Spencer Cox is coming to New Zealand in, I think that was like a week or a couple of weeks after. So the timing couldn't be any better. And we were considering all sorts of states, right? In terms of taxes and in terms of, legal and scaling capabilities and so on. And I think, you can think of Spencer Cox as a politician, right? But he's actually an entrepreneur himself, right? So he's very entrepreneurial and doing amazing job for, things for Utah and for Utahns. So, he basically convinced me that it was the right place to be. And then after that, I flew to Utah to meet with them again and meet the World Trade Center team and the other teams that we have here in the CBD. And sort of from there, I fell at home, right? In terms of this is an amazing state to be, and the fact that Utah is scaling so much, whether it is in aerospace and defense, which is our largest market basically, but also Utah being the crossroad of the West, as we call it, right? It's in middle, and so it's easy for us to access East and West, and in the US, and being based kind of in the middle. So it didn't take very long for us to, it's been 3 months to set up all our operation here as quickly as we could, and start just with Utahns themselves, right? So there's a lot to do here, right? So just here, and it's been going really well. So that's where it actually came from, the timing of us looking to have a state where we could really scale from, and the fact that Spencer Cox came and we met, and it was actually an amazing meeting, and to see what could be possible here, and the way that Utah is scaling, and where policies are going, and all the other initiatives that Governor Spencer Cox and his teams are working on. An alignment on many fronts.
It's cool. Well, I'm glad you're here. I think
we're very glad.
It's exciting. All right, man. Well, Arnaud, this has been awesome. I super enjoyed this. I had no idea what to expect, but I really enjoyed this. I'm excited about the future of robotics.
Yes, and I'm just excited about life.
Yeah, cool stuff. It is an exciting time, isn't it?
Well, I'm just excited about life, right? So I wake up every day, and I'm just excited about life. This is I can't wait. There's so much for me to build. Turning I'm 49, so turning 50. I aiming at 80 years to go, right? So that's my goal.
That's the goal. Okay, yeah, I like it.
Yep.
Why not?
So
why not, dude? 120?
Yeah,
that's totally doable,
right?
I think so. Why not?
Because then I would have 50 years of like work and meaning and whatever, and then I would have 20 years to muck around, and enjoy whatever, even though working is my calling, and so on. But I think 80 years. That's what I've.
I mean, I don't see why not. I think that with the way people are approaching life and data and understanding of the human body and things, the advances there. I mean, why not? I'm into it. 80 years sounds good to me, man. I'm right. I'm with you.
Oh, something you didn't cover. You were saying about meaningful social change. What it
let's
meant.
talk about that.
Yeah, right. So
so
I can talk about that
please.
for a few seconds to give you a bit of a context, because it's kind of my personal. It's not about the companies. It's my personal kind of.
I like the way you called it your calling. You're like, this is my calling.
It is
like
a calling.
That.
It is.
Yeah.
Very much a calling. So meaningful social change. What it means to me is, if for the last few years, I land here in the US, and what I would do is I would go into a convenience store, and I would buy packs of cigarettes and a few packs of lollies, and so when I walk, I've got these packs of cigarettes in my pocket, and basically when I see the homeless people, right, that is what I can do. And this isn't the time to judge them and to tell them, get a job, or cigarettes, smoking is bad for you, or whatever. Yeah. It is at that very moment. It's about, putting a bit of light in the light of this person, a chat, a lolly, a pack of cigarettes cost me nothing, right? So, and this is what I call small philanthropy, right? So this is the daily thing that I can do to just make the life of this person better. And people would judge me for doing this. I don't care, right? So for me, I know that it's, I can't stand human suffering at all. And that's what I can do right now. I can't carry food with me or anything like that. And I'm always sort of moving around, so I can, but that I can do. And they're always happy, right? So, but meaningful social change means that, and that is not meaningful, right? That is just small philanthropy. But meaningful means when you have an impact which is as big as possible. So we address, the 33 million businesses here, and how, how many people are impacted, and so on. And the technologies that we build are not there to address or care for a few people, because that, what kind of success is that? What kind of social change is that? So it's not very much. So you have to have the impact needs to be big enough for that that population to feel empowered, to feel cared for. And so I think that's what, to me, meaningful means, right? So it is impactful enough and measurable enough that you have a real tangible result, and not just, hey, we're building technologies and we might help a few people and move on to the next companies. We're not into that business at all.
Sure.
We are in the really caring at scale business. That's what we do.
You're really trying to take care. I mean, I heard you say something earlier about caring for the planet, and you're not only trying to care for the planet as an entity, but you're trying to care for the people on the planet, all, like everybody. You're trying to do something that's going to impact a material amount of people, and I think you will. Sounds like, I mean, this plan works. It's going to have a really, really big impact.
Right.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. That is meaningful.
Right.
I agree. Thanks for taking the time to break that down, man. I super enjoyed this. I'm really glad I got to meet you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you taking the time.
Very much.
This is great.
Thanks a lot.
Cool. Thanks, man.